Here.
Alderwoman Jones.
Here.
Alderman Welch.
Here.
Alderman Green. Alderman Rupertus.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Jones, would you lead us in the pledge, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, and one indivisible.
Thank you. Did Reverend
Yes.
Jude make it?
Father Jude.
Father Jude? Thank you very much, Father Jude, for coming and providing our invitation.
Thank you for having me. I'm here to pray for you all that God give you wisdom so that as you lead, you will do so in the manner that is for the benefit of everyone. St. Paul reminds us in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 1 and following, that it is good to pray for everyone, kings, and all those in authority. Why? So that we will all live quiet and tranquil life, because God desires the well-being of all His children. And so now let us pray. If you have a hat, man, I ask you as a way of respect to please take that off as we bow our head in prayer. And so we pray. Blessed are you, Lord God of mercy, who through your Son gave us a marvelous example of charity and love, and the great commandment of love for one another. Send down your blessings on these your servants, these men and women called to serve, who so generously devote themselves to helping others. When they are called on in times of need, let them faithfully serve you in their neighbor, and may they do so guided by wisdom that comes from above. We ask this in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, we have no special presentations tonight and no public comments. Right. Jerry, here's your chance.
Everyone gets relief tonight.
Go ahead, Jerry.
No announcements. Reports from directors. This is the second meeting of the month, so our more lengthy ones are on the first meeting, but our city administrator, Kendall Francis, would like to give us an update on the last 2 weeks.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a recap. We had 5 candidates who have submitted their names for the 3 alderman positions for the May 4th election. Monday, the 26th, 9 a.m., we will have the drawing for ballot position. That'll be right here at City Hall. Water project, an update on that. All services are now connected to the new main, and so the project will be rapidly coming to an end. Branch will be making asphalt and cement repairs starting on Monday, and then they will also be coming in towards the end of the week, Wednesday, Thursday time frame, to do some sodding and grass seeding. A reminder to citizens that next Wednesday, the 28th, Branch will be installing a 6-inch main water valve along Bob Smith. So the water service will be interrupted. We've posted a window of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. where we feel fairly confident it will not take that long, but people from Pelican Road North along Bob Smith, your service will be interrupted during that time. So, and we will put out another reminder first of the week. But the audit, Esther and I spoke to the auditors this afternoon. They tell us that they have all the information that they need, and they're making the last entries, and that then that information will be sent to the lead auditor, who will then send us the draft. So I think we're very close to seeing that. I also wanted to talk about dumping, illegal dumping along Jolly Roger. We've had some reports of things being, trash and other things being dumped along that, along the water line there. We do accept clean concrete to be dumped along there, and when I say clean concrete, that's it has no rebar or wire mesh in it. We actually,
It's about the size of a football, right?
yeah,
I mean,
we
don't-
prefer that it be broken up.
It doesn't serve its purpose. If it's too little, it ends up in the bay, and if
Right.
it's too big, it doesn't help provide the bulkhead effect.
Exactly, to prevent the
The erosion
erosion along
protection,
there.
yes.
So, we would ask that you would contact City Hall for permission, and that way we'd be able to inspect that. If we witness people dumping along there and they have not been provided permission, then we're going to treat that as illegal dumping, and we will ticket them as such. So, quickly, STRs, we have 83 previously registered short-term rentals who have not re-registered. So we are sending out some final reminder letters this week, and that we've put the deadline of March 15th. And so anytime after March 15th, we will be monitoring rental sites. And so we'll be looking for compliance. So if those people are continuing to rent, or they're not renting outside of what is set aside in Ordinance 2311, we will be addressing that. Let everyone know that we received the notice from the National Flood Insurance Program this week that we are in full compliance with the program. And I believe April 1st we will see that. So that's good news. Everybody will be seeing that on their insurance. And then finally, spring heavy trash cleanup. Just a reminder, that will be Saturday, April 6th. And we now have a sign-up form on the city website. So if you just go to the latest news section, you'll see an article about it. You can click on that, and there's a form in there to fill out as to describe what you want picked up and your address, and you send it off. We will collect those here at City Hall. And just a quick reminder, they are not picking up household trash, hazardous waste, which would include like paints and Freon, electronics, large tree trunks, or large construction jobs, materials from large construction jobs. So that's all I have, unless we have questions.
Nope, you answered them. Okay, next is consent agenda and approval of minutes. So, unless there's discussion, do I have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the items on the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving the items on the consent agenda and approval? All right, all opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. Okay, comments, reports for members of council. We're gonna switch it up today. Alderman Rupertus, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
Nothing positive, no ma'am.
Okay. Would you like to comment on something negative?
No.
Okay.
My mother taught me better.
Okay, Alderman Welch?
No report.
Okay.
No report.
Okay, Alderman Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. Early voting for the primaries are this week. Dates and times are tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, 8 to 5, Saturday, 7 to 7, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Sunday, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., Monday, February 26th till Friday, March 1st is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and the election day is March 5th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Please get out and vote. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. All right. Next on the agenda, new business. Discussion and consideration for the employee handbook. Do I have a motion to discuss?
Make a motion that we discuss employee handbook.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, it's lengthy, comprehensive. Any comments, adds, subtractions?
May I, Kendall, this is beautiful. I know you made a couple of changes and they really fit in compared to the one that we had from 2017. This is so detailed and complete. I'm just really impressed with it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It is lengthy, but unfortunately, sometimes it has to be. But I do think that it does cover everything that our other one does not. A couple of things that I would like to point out. This does, section C3 does speak of a position classification and pay plan. That does not exist at this time.
Right.
But it's coming. That's another one of those things that's on the list that it will be working on. But I wanted to make certain it was included in the handbook so that when it's completed, we don't have to make changes then. The vacation, sick leave accrual and balances is a change from how we currently do it, especially the amount of accrual that's allowed. And so I just that is sections F5 and F6. You guys have had a little time to look at this. I don't know if there was concerns with those amounts. I will. We're moving. Trying to read through my highlighting here, but employees who are here up to 4 years of service will be eligible up to 2 weeks of vacation. 5 to 9 years, 3 weeks. 10 to 14 years of service they'd be eligible for 4 weeks of vacation, and then 15 plus years of service, they would be eligible for 5 weeks of vacation. It is important to note that upon termination of employment, we do pay for vacation balance. We do not pay for sick leave, and the accumulation for sick leave is a maximum of 240 hours for all employees except for police. Because police officers working 12-hour shifts would accrue 360 hours of sick leave. It comes out to the same amount of days, but because they're 12-hour shifts, if you take 1 day, you're essentially taking 12 hours. So that's kind of the change in that regard. There is, as far as leave, currently, our employees are granted 2 floating holidays. But honestly, most of the employees don't even know that. So I am recommending that we forego the 2 floating holidays in exchange for the addition of President's Day to our normal holiday schedule. One, it's just easier to maintain and track. It also fits a little bit better with just the flow of business. As President's Day is a federal holiday, most banks, government offices are closed, schools are closed. It can work better for employees who have families, as far as childcare and things like that. So they would be giving up. They'd be giving up 2 for 1, but that would be the proposal that I would have. Obviously, there's a progressive discipline policy that's well spelled out in there, and like I said, I would be happy to answer questions in regards to it, or if we need to continue to tweak some things. I do realize that the formatting's still off a little bit. I'm working on that. I just haven't cleaned it up like I need to. But that's a minor thing.
So on comments, I didn't recognize, at the time we proposed a modification to our vacation schedule, last May, I think it was one of the first things on the agenda, was we added Juneteenth. But, so we added, and we added MLK. So adding those 2 days, and we took away December 31st. I didn't realize that we were not honoring the 2 floating days because we were all new here and none of us knew about it. So really, we kind of added 1 day, took away 1, added 1 back in June. And so adding President's Day will maintain the 12 days of holidays that we had historically had with the 2. So, but one thing I had sort of on point of order, Kendall, is we passed a resolution adopting those holidays.
Right.
Do we need to do that by resolution again at next meeting, or by adopting this employee handbook, we adopt the vacation schedule?
Well,
I'm not sure.
I will tell you, I will have to clarify that. It was my assumption that we could, because it's a resolution and not an ordinance, passing this could supersede that resolution. But I will clarify that
Okay.
before we go forward.
All right, because I wasn't sure if at next meeting we need to do that by resolution or
Sure,
if this
and
did.
if we do, we'll take the necessary steps, but as this is, like I said, a new recommendation, I wanna make sure you guys are, fine with going forward before I, do anything different.
All right, we usually do allow, during new business, we do tend to allow, people present a chance to speak, so, did you have a quick question?
Yes, really quick, if we could do away with the Juneteenth for them to do the right thing and get their vacations, that should be applied.
Okay, I'll let you take that up with the council member and we can consider it in final modifications. The Juneteenth is a nationally recognized holiday, so, we still are following the same number of holidays we've traditionally had. So, we're trying to follow as much as possible the nationally recognized, holiday schedule. As Kendall pointed out, it does help with parents and school kids as well as other entities that are off that day that we can't interact with anyway.
But I would recommend that you would keep Juneteenth, had it not already been, it would have been a recommendation of mine to add it had it not already been in place.
Yeah.
Honestly, it started here in Texas, I believe.
Yes,
Here
it
in
did.
Dallas,
Here
Texas.
in Dallas.
So,
Hearing
I
it
would-
started here in Dallas.
Yeah, so I think it's appropriate that we honor that. It could have started in Kansas and I would have thought the same thing. I think it's important and, I think you guys did the right thing by adding it.
Well, my assumption, Kendall, is that you will have it all formatted and ready for final approval at the next meeting. We
Yes.
don't have on the agenda, approval of.
No, this is purely discussion because this is
That's
the
right.
first time it was really brought forward
Right.
for open discussion.
Okay, so that allows extra time. Yes,
Yeah.
Melissa?
Still open for comment,
Yep.
our questions?
Uh-huh.
Is there gonna be legal review, labor law, legal review of the manual?
I would gladly let our attorneys review this.
That's recommended.
Yeah,
We can pass it on to Olson and Olson.
yeah, I'm certain it will pass a legal review.
But, it's a good stamp of approval.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, yes. Alderman Madre?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have one comment. I think I would like you to revisit, some of the language around the applications, job applications. And one of them in particular was, I think it's P4, where, and I kind of agree with you, but where we say non-exempt positions may submit, they don't have to submit an application, they just may submit a resume. There's no problem with that. I just think that every employee should submit a job application. If they just say, see resume for all the details, and they sign it. Because what's happening is they are a test that what they have furnished is true and accurate.
Right.
Legal attestment.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because I did see your email asking about that and I forgot to acknowledge that.
It's just a thought. I mean,
Yeah, well,
Maybe it
that's
fits, maybe it doesn't.
I thought the language covered it well enough, but I can easily make some adaptions to know that we are going to have an official application form. I believe even when I applied for the job, it went through, I had an application form that I had to fill out. So,
Maybe.
yeah.
And the other thing was in the very beginning, under your rules and human resources, could you consider that in the employee's personnel file, that it also have their job application and their resume?
Oh, as far as keeping in their employee
Yeah, because
file?
it looks like what I'm seeing is centered around payroll information rather than, and I say this from some of the things that we ran into 2 years ago.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be neat, I don't know how it fits exactly, but somehow we,
Yeah, no, I think
I can-
keeping a resume on file officially
Our
is a good
applications.
practice.
and their application where they attest that
Yeah.
it's true and
Yes.
accurate.
Yep,
And I'll spell out a little bit better what we already do. I think we do those things. I may not have
Yeah.
spelled it out very clearly in this.
So, and beyond that, I think it's an excellent, excellent policy and an excellent document, and I thank you.
Thank you.
all right, moving on to the next, any other comments? No? Okay, moving on to the next new business item, discussion, consideration, and take action to approve resolution for the county's mosquito spraying services. Do I have a motion to discuss?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, any comments? I think this
We need
is-
it.
We need it?
Yeah.
Spray them skeeters.
Spray them skeeters. Okay, any other comments, discussion? No? Okay, do I have a motion to approve resolution for the county's mosquito spraying services?
I'll make that motion.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving resolution for the county's mosquito spraying services?
Yes.
Gil, did you raise your hand? Did I miss it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All in favor? All right, next is discussion, consideration, and take action to approve reduction of sewer tap charge for Jack Birdsong. Do I have a motion to discuss?
I make the motion that we discuss, consideration and take action, approve reduction of sewer tap charge for Jack Birdsong.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. As y'all know, Mr. Birdsong spoke at the last meeting, explaining the history of his.
The long history.
The long history of his.
Mr. Birdsong started this process in Jack 2021?
Yes.
2021, long before we made the resolution to increase the tap fees. And he was delayed through no fault of his own. Or at least that's how I see it. And I'd like other input.
Any other comments? Discussion?
Question, what is our actual cost now? I know we're charging $4,500, is that our actual cost?
We, so Branch charges $4,500 to do a long sewer tap and about $3,800 for a short sewer tap.
And Jack's would be,
And, we basically, the rate is $4,500. Because you can hit problems at any time and it's higher than that. So that is what they actually charge us. Making it fair, you don't know which side of the road you're gonna live on. So we opted to approve a $4,500 sewer tap because that covers a little bit extra contingency when things happen, when we do things around here. So that's the actual charges from Branch. And that's also in line with what Galveston charges. If you go look up online with their rates are very similar. And they're doing it in-house, they don't use a third party to do it, but the charges are in line with that.
And does anybody know how long we've been undercharging, you know, for,
Go ahead, Robert.
Years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Cause, I was at, previous person, Noel was taking me, and when it was calling my attention, it was 350,
yeah.
350, and I saw a bill, I said, this is crazy, he said, that's the way we've always charged.
When I went back and looked at bills, and Russell, you're probably the most adept at answering the history. Back when we had Raul Silva doing it, I think he did charge the city about $400. In 2018, Raul left and we hired USW. And looking back at USW invoices, USW was charging about $14.40, I believe. And that didn't include remediation of the area around it. They brought in another third party to do that after they dug and did the tap. So that total bill from USW probably ran around $1,900. And then, of course, we know the escalation of prices since COVID. So, yeah, I know it's been since I don't remember when USW started, sometime in 2018. We have been way undercharging the city, so if you got your home built in that time, good for you.
I am familiar with Mr. Birdsong's long building process, and I feel as though we should be somewhat compassionate to the situation.
Okay,
I am, you got really caught up with a bad situation, and I'm so sorry that it took all this time, but I'm not in favor of lowering it for him. You know, if we go, it's the cost of doing business, the city's not a charity. So, you know, this is our cost, and everyone else, if anyone else came to us and asked, would we do it for them too? You know, we can't.
any other comments?
Can I speak?
It is, huh? Yeah, it is new, huh?
I guess where I'm confused is haven't we looked at the permits we gave him today? We know,
So the building permit for the house was approved, I believe it was finalized was November 30th, I believe, of 2023, which was after the change in the tap fees. However, you know, and this all predates me, but as you guys alluded to, the process started in planning and zoning with variance or some things like that. As we looked back through paperwork, and I indicate here, we did see where, you know, we had got a temporary power pole permit back in September, which would have been before the change of the sewer tap, which occurred in October. You know, so I do see that paper trail where things were progressing, but you know, so it appears to me his intention was to be building something, but you know, he's been building a boat house or something prior to the home. You know, when I originally denied that we would lower it, and I told him I really didn't have the authority to do that, and I needed to come to you for that kind of action. You know, so I'm a little bit torn. I'm empathetic with. It sounds like he's been through a process, but I have to weigh that the building permit was approved after the sewer tap fee change, and so that was what I based my recommendation on. But obviously you guys have been here longer and know more of the detailed history of how that went down, so you can use that to bear on your decision.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
thank you, Kim. I just was concerned about how this thing developed. The guy was delayed. I think his original permit was for a boat docks and not to build a house. I'm not sure on that. And,
Well, my understanding, Gil, is he wasn't going to, he worked on getting the variance for the boathouse, because if his boathouse were gonna be different, he might have altered
The design of
plan,
the house.
the design of his house. So yes, he approached the boathouse first, but it was due to the variance he was seeking. Is that a correct statement, Jay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Which in turn delayed his start of construction.
Yes, which in turn delayed his start of construction.
Jeez. Wish I was sorry.
Yes, exactly. Okay, any other comments, discussion? Do we, all in favor of approving the reduction of sewer tap charge for Jack Birdsong?
What is the reduction?
From, our old bill was $400.
Comes somewhere in between there?
Can we get it in the middle?
Hit it in the
I
middle?
mean,
Um,
I mean, that's still unfair.
okay,
It's still unfair, but we
Which we're-
bear part of the cost here for.
okay, so what would be your recommendation on a charge to Mr. Birdsong? Split the difference?
Split the difference?
It went up $4,100, something like that in half.
So knock the 4,100 and, you wanna just say 2,000, so we don't have to do a 2,050?
What's the difference?
Uh,
It's just a number on a check.
No, we're talking the original cost of the $400.
I mean, seriously, $50.
So,
Okay,
so
2050,
Mr. Birdsong has,
2050.
Mr. Birdsong has paid the
He's already
entire,
paid.
he has paid, so, it would be us issuing a refund for
Refund.
whatever. we decide.
Okay, so do I, all in favor of approving a reduction of $2,050?
You have to
Um,
motion first.
let me take this.
Okay.
Motion to refund $2,050 of
Okay,
sewer tap charge for Mr. Birdsong.
you're motioning for that?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll make that second.
So that.
Okay, thank you.
So he has paid $4,500.
Yeah.
Right.
so-
Actually, $4,550 because there's a $50 inspection fee.
Yeah,
So-
there was $400, it was $400 originally, so the
Right.
difference between
So my
4,500.
recommendation would be that that we split the total cost in half, so it's 4,500, so the 2250. That would be the,
Motion withdrawn?
Excuse me, do you make a motion to give them a refund, or do you make a motion to accept a reduction in the amount of?
Refund, he's already
Refund.
paid.
yeah, he has paid the entire.
We're gonna refund him $2,250.
That's not what's on the agenda.
Okay, so let's word it, how does this wording sound? Do I have a motion to approve a reduction in the sewer tap fee charge for Mr. Birdsong, which will result in a $2,250 refund to Mr. Birdsong?
Motion as stated.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All in favor of approving a reduction in the sewer tap charge for Jack Birdsong to, which will result in to half, to $2,250, which will result in a $2,250 refund to Mr. Birdsong. All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, all opposed? Gil, did you?
I voted.
Okay, sorry, I
I'm
think you're
not on this
holding.
side. I'm starting moving up to the side.
Thank you.
That's how it works.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda, discussion, consideration, and take action, to approve appointment to Board of Adjustments. We had, one vacancy and 2 alternate positions. We did receive 2 applications. The first application is from Miss Susan Armstrong. Miss Susan Armstrong lives in Tomball, but is down here frequently. She has a finance background, does auditing, and so she does understand compliance and reading rules and recommendations. The other candidate was Mr. Al Ayers. He's very qualified for the position. His wife, Miss Deborah Ayer, though, is on JBIC. And I do feel that will be a conflict of interest. I don't know how they're going to keep themselves completely separate from phone conversations, et cetera, on those discussions. Yes, Jerry?
Excuse me, Mayor, Deborah is just the secretary. She has no vote whatsoever on the JBIC. She acts as a secretary.
I realize
Okay,
I realize she's the secretary, but I also realize that, you know, much of our work is done at home these days, on the phone, in the car, and his ability to overhear conversations, even though she doesn't have decision over it, I worry about that conflict of interest. So at this point, unless council directs otherwise, I am not recommending Mr. Ayers for the position. If council would like to point out reasons to put him as an alternate, I'd be happy to talk about that and put that forward. But at this point, I would like to request approval of Ms. Susan Armstrong for the position on the Board of Adjustments.
Has anyone met Ms. Armstrong
I've talked with her on the phone.
on the phone?
Yes, I have not had the opportunity to meet her,
Has staff met?
I've talked to her on the phone as well.
Okay.
but we've not met her. And she does indicate that, I guess technically we haven't done a motion to discuss this, have we?
No, we have not.
Oh, well.
Motion to discuss. Second.
Thank you, okay. So she does indicate that she's available to drive down as needed on short notice. She doesn't travel with her job, that she can attend in person. She probably can't attend weekly in person, but she can attend with the frequency we hold our meetings.
How many Board of Adjustment meetings have we had?
We've
Only
had,
when needed.
we've had 3 in the last 2 years, year and a half that I've been here.
Yeah,
Who was the chairman?
David,
Torino.
Yeah.
David Torino? Torino.
Torino.
He's still with,
Yes.
yes.
he should be, it's only a 1-year deal.
No, he was a 2-year term, and they were reinstated, yeah,
He was reinstated.
Yes,
On that, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
yeah, last year. It was about February last year, April last year. So anyway, do I have a motion to approve Ms. Susan Armstrong to the Board of Adjustments?
I'll make that motion for Ms. Susan Armstrong to the Board of Adjustments.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, all opposed? Okay,
Madam Mayor, can we actively continue to look for alternates?
yes. I was gonna say, I am going to go, reach out, I'd appreciate, Alderman, if you reach out for people to consider being on the board. Would you like to be on the board? Anyway.
Holy conflict of interest there, man.
Anyway, but I will continue to reach out and appreciate, citizen input on that as well as council member input. All right, next on the agenda is discussion and consideration of potential criteria for citywide parking ordinance. And do I have a motion to discuss?
I'll make that motion to discuss the citywide parking ordinance.
I second it.
Okay, so to start this conversation off, at the town hall meeting on January 27th, concerning short-term rentals, we had lots of energy for doing something to address the parking issues. And so this discussion is about what would we see as viable solutions for parking. So, it goes from a complete no parking on the streets to no parking on the streets during certain times to leave it as it is. So, we're discussing.
Look at me.
I'm looking at anybody who would like to.
I said we leave it as it is and let the police do their job and enforce it as necessary.
We don't have anything to enforce except illegal parking, if you're parking the wrong way. But as far as number of cars on the streets and challenges that it creates for people getting boats in and out, et cetera. So they can, and we have had tickets of, we've had roughly 120 parking citations issued last year. And, with another, I think 47 on the beach. So in the city itself last year, so many of those tickets were for parking too close to an intersection. The majority of them were for parking on the wrong side of, facing the wrong direction.
Yeah.
That was the majority of the parking tickets. But,
The only thing I would add on this discussion, it's, I don't know how we make it an objective rule, but sometimes when folks are gathering, they park on both sides of the street, and there's really inadequate room for an emergency vehicle to safely pass. That's what I think really needs to be addressed here with parking. I mean, the rest of it could be covered, because with that usually comes the other nuisances, right, which is the ordinance that we should be working on, which is an enhanced noise ordinance. But I don't know how we codify that.
Mr. Hebert, you have a comment? Because we are opening this up to general discussion from the audience. Would love input from the audience as well.
Law enforcement needs to have some teeth, meaning that if vehicles are parked on the side of the roadway after dark, it's unsafe, you can't get emergency vehicles down the roadway. If they have the teeth to, with an ordinance, to remove the vehicle, to tow it, party over. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense.
Sometimes the city has to pass ordinances to protect the city as well. So keep that in mind whenever you think about your ordinance. You want your most restrictive guidelines for parking as you can. You have to give law enforcement some teeth. Or you've got your same problem that you've had all this time, and you have someone knocking on the door saying, y'all turn it down, they go away, the party's still going on. Fix the parking issue.
Give the police more authority to do their job.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of streets already that we have that are no parking. I live on a street that is no parking along Bob Smith and all along Jolly Roger.
Oh, no, Bob Smith allows parking. It's only at the very, very end.
Very end,
That's no
right.
parking.
That,
Very north end.
yes, ma'am.
Buccaneers, no parking. Jolly
Buccaneers.
Rogers, no parking, and all of Beachside is no
All of
parking.
Beachside is no parking. And those streets are wider than Henry Morgan and some Edward Teach and some of them that are only, you told me once, how wide some of these streets are.
Yeah, that's one of our biggest problems. We have a section, the streets are only 13 feet wide. And it's Montego Way and the group that we just did the border lines
Yeah.
on. It's ridiculous, we should have no parking on those streets.
We need to look a lot closer at this because.
And your idea is very good too. Well, that's what we need to talk about this and get some reasonable suggestions as a community.
I talked to several people that are in Beachcomber and on Jamaica Beach Road. And, you know, if they're gonna have, family or have, a party or something, what they do is they ask their neighbors
Sure.
if they can use their driveways. And that's how they arrange it. Or they cart each other from the park or wherever. So that way they can, they make arrangements for all the parking. Tell everybody to make sure you buddy up. Don't just drive one and one and one. Now, of course, we want everybody to be here. You don't want the 25-year-old who was able to get off work to come and be there at a family function or whatever. So you make arrangements for that. But, you know, I've lived here 23 years and I've never had an issue with having people have to park on the street. So, no, and I've never had to ask anybody of my neighborhood for us to park, but that's just the way I live. And now I've had people all the time, when there's stuff at the park, they call me and say, can we park in your driveway? You know, we all should help each other that way. So I think we need to look at either no parking anywhere, or having hours that is no parking, so that, we don't have this 13 feet of, and people having to go through and over, around, onto private property to get down the street. I'm certainly aware that our fire department, our police department would move heaven and earth to get through if there was an emergency. So that's not an issue, cause that's, they'll make it through. But, if I am trying to get home, I wanna have to call the police to have somebody's car moved. But, I think we need to look into,
I can kind of lean towards what Alderman Jones is proposing too, with the exception of these small streets should be no parking. These 13-foot streets, 13-1. It's just,
well, this is where it says the citywide parking.
yeah, and then perhaps some hours that you're suggesting, something like that
Well, it's certainly
as
what
well.
I heard at the town hall is what the people want. So we do need to have a discussion about it.
Yeah, we had lots and lots of people comment on parking, which is why we're discussing it,
Yep.
right? It was a large,
It needs to be reasonable,
point of discussion.
because we have pesky things to deal with here.
Yeah, we do.
Right of assembly.
Yeah, clearly.
That's I know it's a pesky thing, but it is, one of our God-given rights is the right to freely assemble. But, so we have to have some sort of middle ground. Now, I could see one side of a street only on these little inlet streets like Managua and Tortuga and Barbados, right? Because if you have people parking on both sides, it becomes a pretty sticky situation for folks. But, to say no parking at all, it kind of hits right there on that freedom of assembly piece.
Yes, Mr. Ingram?
So, the parking ordinance, again, you need to think about it's to protect the city as well as the residents, okay? But you have to use common sense. You're gonna have contractors during the day who have trailers, they're gonna be parking on the side of the road. It should be kind of a safety issue, nighttime kind of thing. It's gonna give the law enforcement some teeth. The only time you're gonna have an issue with parking, it ain't because you got contractors, unless they're blocking somebody's driveway, of course, but it's because you have a disorderly conduct type party that's going on, and your law enforcement need teeth to say, you're parked on the street, we got a no ordinance, parking, first record. Okay, so whenever you start towing cars, people start leaving, party's over, problem solved. So, think about contractors who are gonna come there during the week. The issue is not during daylight working business hours. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Whenever people are trying to be quiet and they're still running up and down the street, having a grand time.
So even the park closes at 10 PM.
Yep.
That was my point, 10 PM, boom. Then I don't know what time in the morning.
So, I mean, I've heard criteria from no parking at all, to parking on just one side of the street, to, no parking from sometime at night to sometime in the morning.
I'll leave that way.
You lean that way? I mean, we're just trying to get input here, to decide, yes,
That
Mr.
doesn't
Russell.
restrict assembly, I don't believe, does it?
Mr.
No, it's,
Hourly
it's-
restricted.
yeah, I don't know.
You're not restricting assembly, we're restricting
That's
parking.
an important thing.
Well,
Right.
Yeah, you're not restricting.
I'm just going where folks are gonna go when they try to post this, they're gonna go right for that.
Miss Jocelyn, you had a
They
comment?
can always rent the park till 10 p.m.
Miss
So
Jocelyn?
my street is Pelican Way, and I don't even think we could have parking on one side of the street. Or people, if there was a big party and somebody was parked all on, it was parked all on one side of the street, then nobody would be able to cross. You know, like if a car was coming, another car was coming, you wouldn't even be able to get around each other.
And that's what happens.
So to me, the width of the street should, should say maybe.
That should be a big factor,
Yeah,
the width of the
exactly.
street.
So if the street is a little wider, then maybe you could park on one side, but if it's a very narrow street, I just don't see how.
It's tough enough to get law enforcement to do their job at all, much less measure streets.
Yeah, but.
Well, you would have
You
signs
either
up.
got it or you don't.
You would have signs
You
up
just put signs up,
to indicate.
but
I'd rather have a citywide ordinance and no signs.
makes it easier, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I did read we can do that. You can have at your main entry points a sign that applies to the whole city.
And then, my other
because-
comment is, I've been to a lot of parties, and we have never had to park on the street. We do what, Ms. Jones says, we pick golf carts, you park wherever, it's just not a problem. I don't think.
Okay, well, I guess I'm hearing a little bit more consensus on maybe a nighttime ban of parking on the streets. As this maybe taking it forward and letting people comment on that and put it out there for comments.
I'm good with it. I also like the idea of in the ordinance of the police towing the cars.
Well, anytime there's a violation of the no parking,
I mean-
the police can, it's their discretion, they can ticket or they can tow.
Is that how it works? Okay.
If you're impeding traffic, impeding the roadway, and if you're impeding,
I
then
mean,
you
we're not.
can tow it.
If it's not there to be ticketed, you pull.
Is our parking ordinance state that?
I'm gonna buy a tow truck.
Look who just walked in.
Do we need to relook at our parking ordinances and see how to make it stronger?
Well, we would append our existing
Or supersede.
parking ordinance, right, and either supersede it, I think the proposal would still be to keep the no parking at all streets as they are. I mean,
Absolutely.
those streets are no parking for,
A very good reason.
yeah, a very good reason, and so the others, those I would propose stay as is, and then we would just look at additional streets. Yes, Ms. Josie?
Can citizens, they can park in the parking lot at the city park
Mhm.
without any charge?
Right,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, no permit or no charges required.
How about the pole?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same,
The same parking.
the
That's
same
Same
parking
parking
lot,
lot.
right, that they share a parking lot. Yes,
How
Ms.
long can they park in that
That's
parking
my-
lot without
thank you.
moving that car?
That was my next question.
That would be a good point we would need to address in our ordinance.
I've seen them park there for 4 days before,
Yeah.
never moved the car
Right.
for 4 days.
Yeah, we don't have, as far as I know, Chief, we don't have any restrictions to the park. I know that JDIC in the deed restrictions, if any of y'all have had the luxury of reading those, they're not really enforceable, but our deed restrictions actually say you can't park on the street in a single location for more than 24 hours. So if you're parked out there, I guess they could, the cops could go mark your tire with chalk or whatever, and if that chalk line hasn't moved for 24 hours, but JDIC doesn't have the right to ticket or enforce, so it's out there, but it's not really enforceable, but we don't have anything at the park that I know of, so we could put a limitation on the hours you're allowed to park at the park.
Yes.
So our deed restrictions are not enforceable?
Well, they can't go write a ticket about it, they can come write a letter, right? And then they do have the right to tow your car and charge you, right? But it takes legal action to do that. They don't really,
Okay, thank you.
so they are enforceable, but through a fairly lengthy process. So, they don't have the right to fine or write citations as we do. Okay, well, does anybody else have any other comments? This really was kind of a brainstorm, what might work, what might not work. And then we'll move forward with some type of ordinance for discussion at either the next meeting or the meeting after that. We'll look a little more and get a little more legal precedence on right to assembly, and does limiting parking in a neighborhood impact that in any way? We'll do a little more research on that. It's a good point, David.
Do we need to make it?
Just going by where, just thinking like a,
Yes.
I won't use the word.
Yes,
but
I know.
Thinking like one of those people.
Yes.
Then do we need to put more teeth into it to where when police do decide to write a citation, or when they do decide to tow, do we need to make that more clear?
I don't think we
What's
should
the-
leave it up to a decision. If there's a parking ordinance, then tow them. I mean,
That
I
should
don't
be a
mean
decision
so-
of the
so-
police.
Sounds so hard boiled, but don't force chief people to make a decision.
Yeah.
Let them have the decision made.
What's the citation? What's the cost of the citation?
It's what we decide in the ordinance, the maximum you're allowed to do a citation. It usually says maximum fine. If it's just a standard ordinance, standard citation, it's $500. If it involves health, safety, or the environment, it can be up to $2,000
Okay.
maximum. But that's to be imposed by the judge,
Mhm.
right? We have our standard window price, but then the judge has the discretion to raise it to the max or what. We don't actually write the amount of the fine on the ticket. It's when you come, you get the window price. If you wanna come pay, if you wanna come to court, the judge decides. But those are the maximums for those two purposes. Yes, ma'am.
If we're gonna fine, if we're gonna ticket somebody, is the money coming to Jamaica Beach? City of Jamaica Beach, not Galveston.
Oh, it doesn't go to Galveston, but a
If it
good
stays
portion
here,
of it,
then take it away.
but a big portion of the fine, there's a minimum amount of each fine that goes to the state. And then there's different percentages, right, Chief, that goes to the state? There's a base fee.
There's fees that you
Huh?
have to pay the state.
Yeah, there's fees that go to the state, and then anything left over after those fees
Is
to the
ours.
state
Is the
comes to the
city's.
city. So it depends upon the type of citation it is as to how much the fees are, so it's real variable. You can't just say, this type of ticket is automatically gonna give the city this much. Okay, yes, Mr.
Okay, a window parking ticket, and correct me if I'm wrong, chief, but a window sticker, you put a sticker on, a ticket on a vehicle's window as a
correct.
parking violation, okay? It's not criminal, it's civil, okay? But if the officer issues a no parking citation to someone who he has observed park in a spot and told them to leave, they didn't leave, he gives them the ticket, that's a Class C ordinance violation, which is criminal. And then when you talk about the right to tow, that's only for impeding the roadway.
So I'm glad he said that. You just can't, because they're illegally parked. Yeah, it's not like a private property. I own this bar, and it says out here, parking for this bar only. That guy has a right to do that. If we started towing everybody's car out here that was illegally parked out in the street, we get into a little jam for that.
But if we have an ordinance that says you can't park on the side of the road after so many hours, and the police officer wants to articulate that it's a safety issue for ambulances, fire trucks,
far out in the
emergency
street,
vehicle, whatever, then he can, it impedes traffic, he
Then
can
we can
tow
tow
it.
it.
So it depends on how bad they're breaking the
Correct.
parking ordinance.
Correct. No,
Okay,
it's true. If the vehicle's on the roadway, like you said, ambulance can't get by, fire truck, we can make that decision to tow it.
okay.
Then the towing company gets all the money.
Yep.
I'm gonna buy a tow truck.
Okay. All right, do we have any other discussion?
You can also enter into contracts with towing companies to keep your roadways clear.
I'm open to that.
Yeah. we-
Just happen to have a contract.
Yep, they're quite willing and happy to do that. All right, that closes new business. For my report, first of all, I'd like to remind everybody that our election for alderman is May 4th. And Alderman Green, Alderman Rupertus, and Alderman Welch have decided not to put their name in the hat again. Well, thank you again, but I'll thank you here for the service you provided to date. So please remember that May 4th is the election. Start reaching out to the candidates, getting to know them. Each and every one of them is highly qualified to fill the positions that are being vacated. All right, the next thing I'd like to point out is the city's gonna try something new for phone call-ins. We're actually not going to have phone call-ins anymore. We've had the system in place for a few months now where people by 2 o'clock have to sign up to call in so that we can manage them through our, is it Teams or Zoom we're using? Teams, but that's created some problems and challenges, and at this time, we're not technologically advanced enough. So what we're gonna do is by the same deadline, the Thursday of council meeting by 2 o'clock, if you want your comments heard, it's not going to be your voice, but it's gonna be your comments, you need to email in and we'll make a modification to our form to have an uploadable file with your application to speak. And then one of our lovely staff members will read your comments. Those comments will be spoken and articulated in about the pace I'm speaking now. When the 3 minutes is up, they'll quit reading. So as people submit their comments and concerns, just be apprised that you kind of need to read it out to yourself, because after 3 minutes, it won't be heard anymore. We'll have written record of what your comments were, and those will be included in the minutes, but they won't be telecast to the audience. So be aware of that. We'll be putting notices out on Facebook that call-ins aren't going to be allowed in the same traditional way, but we still want to provide an opportunity for all of our citizens to be heard in a format that broadcasts it. I mean, we know you can contact your council members, but that's not a way for people listening in and attending council to hear your opinions. So anyway, that's all I have for my mayor's report. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion and we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of adjournment? All right, thank you very much, everybody.
How you doing, Gail?
That was my next question, I was putting my hand back up to say, what is the limitation?
Just that.